Howdy, I'm Benjamin Kugler. Oh, here's my audience.
Did they see us?
Yeah, I think they saw you. So, at a point in time, I was a sophomore in high school. I was also the junior varsity captain of the soccer team. And we had our games on Thursday, so on this specific Wednesday, I found myself in an almost seemingly impossible problem to solve. And I was in my coach's room at lunchtime, alongside the coach and a fellow teammate in question. And the simple problem at that point was that the coach could not tolerate this teammate in question. And that was because of his unpreparedness at practice and both simply goofing off at practice too. But the bigger problem was that this teammate in question had a brother who was also on the team. And the team couldn't back the coach, so instead they actually threatened to not show up to the game the following day. And I'd like to take a little time to actually discuss how the experience of being on a soccer team, being surrounded by a soccer team culture, gave me the skills to settle this dispute. So you're probably thinking, couldn't you have developed these skills outside of a group besides the soccer team? You're probably right, but the soccer team also gave me very valuable leadership skills that I was able to carry on into future opportunities, such as varsity captain and a member of the philanthropy committee in the Texas A&M Pre-Medical Society. So when I think of 3 ideas about lessons that I've learned being on a high school soccer team, I think of effective communication, understanding a person's situation in their entirety, and developing a group relationship rather than an individual one-on-one. So in middle school, I was the least talkative. And that was the same for being on the soccer field, because we're all young, we're all trying to figure out what skills we can display on the field. But growing up with kids that were also getting stronger, more intelligent, and taller, I realized that the difference between a good soccer team and a mediocre soccer team necessarily wasn't the skill. It was how quickly and efficiently that team can adapt to a certain situation, which required effective communication. And this could be either a long drawn out plan at practice for how to take on a team, or just quick remarks during games such as pass the ball, shoot the ball, man on. And so I learned that I had to adapt my speaking skills, because no matter how little you say, as long as it conveys an idea, is much more impactful than just sitting there in silence and watching an event transpire over you. So my next lesson was that understanding a person's scenario in their entirety. And this can be described through another scenario I had that same sophomore year, where a teammate shows up to practice just completely out of it. He is not in the right mind space or headspace for practice. And so we ask him, hey, what's up? You all right? He just brushes it off, and practice ends. We all think he goes back to his home. But in reality, he didn't have a home to go back to. That's because it was burned down that day. And so the team, just completely shocked, wondering why he came to practice, realized if he's there to support us in a time like this, we need to be there to support him. So the next day, instead of practice, we split the team into 2. One goes to his house to clean it up, and the other goes to a store to buy supplies like deodorant, detergent, canned foods that the family needs. And the one takeaway I had from this was the actual change of attitude I saw on the family's faces and the teammate on the soccer field. So I learned and carried on to my future groups that I had after this, that I need to realize both the personality of my teammate in the organization and off the field, so that if anything happens to that person off the field, I need to know how to ask them, how can we get you back on the right mind space? Because if one person is thrown off, we're only as strong as our weakest link. Now, the third lesson, and that was developing a relationship between a group rather than a one-on-one. And I'd like to go back to the story of the coach and the teammate in question, because that Wednesday afternoon, I realized we were getting nothing done. The teammate didn't want to admit anything he had done wrong, and the coach didn't want to believe anything the teammate was saying. So I figured out we need a solution that required more than just this one-on-one interaction. So at practice that night, I informed the team of the coach's expectations because at the end of the day, she is the head figure, the one we all look for guidance. And I told the team that we had to hold each other accountable because if there was any goofing off going on at the practice, nothing was getting accomplished. And with this new unity we found, we actually went on to win districts that year. So I believe we were the strongest team on the field and the strongest team off the field. Now, I'd like to finish the speech with a quick statement that even though this experience came from a soccer team for me, it can be applied to any other group with a collective objective. So if you're listening at home and are involved in a group, please think about if you're effectively communicating, if you're involved with your team, if they're in the right mind space or what their situation is going on, and make sure you're holding each other accountable. Thank you.